In this short video clip, I'm going to talk about some of the ways the present perfect and the present perfect progressive are used. I'm also going to talk about some of the ways in which they differ. Let's use this man here fishing on the bridge as an example for our story. Imagine you walk up to this man on the bridge and you want to ask him a question. You want to know, time, fishing, you have this information and you want to ask him a question. How would you do it? What would you say? So go ahead, create a role play. Go ahead and ask this guy the question. Form your question grammatically. What would you say to this man? Hopefully, you started your sentence with how long. Now maybe you said, how long, you, So you've got basically two different options here. Now because this video is about present perfect and present perfect progressive, go ahead and see if you can form a question in the present perfect first, and also in the present perfect progressive form. Now if you got it right, your first question should have looked something like this. How long have you fished? And your present perfect progressive question should have been, how long have you been fishing? So really structurally there is not much different except for the blue piece. Fished versus you've been fishing. And now, although both of those questions would be fine grammatically speaking, because really the man is fishing right now in the picture, we can see him fishing. We want to focus on the fact that he's fishing right now. How long have you been fishing? I'm talking about today, not really in his life. So let's look at it this way. If I said, how long have you been fishing? I could be referring to that day. I could also possibly be talking about, since he was born. But this question here, how long have you fished, is certainly more of a lifetime type thing. So we're talking about he was born up until now. How long have you fished? At this moment, you might not be fishing, but how long have you fished in your life? Here's another perfect example that illustrates that. So you might say, and this could be a very typical sentence for you, I've studied English for 5 years. Now, if somebody's talking to you at that moment, you might not be studying English. You might be getting on the bus. You might be eating lunch. But you can tell somebody that you have studied English for 5 years. And what that means is that you still studied it. You still study it. You began maybe 5 years ago, and you are currently still studying. Now, this whole emphasis, I've been studying English for 5 years, emphasizes the fact that right now you are currently studying it. They both work, and you'll hear and see both of those used. We'll talk a little bit more about then which one to use and how to distinguish using present perfect versus present perfect progressive. This girl here is studying, so if you wanted to ask her a question, what would you ask her? A how long question. I could ask her, how long have you studied? And she might be a little confused. She might ask you, well, what do you mean, today, or do you mean in general? I've studied for many years. But if you really wanted to emphasize the fact that she's studying right now and she's studying hard for a test, you could say, wow, you look like you've been studying for a long time. How long have you been in the library studying? Meaning today. Again, if you said, how long have you studied? That's not wrong. It's just not as clear that you're emphasizing the fact that she's studying now, currently. Now let's go back to the fishing story. So you've already asked the man, how long have you been fishing? And he might say, oh, I've been fishing for an hour. But your next question is more about the quantity of fish, the number of fish. You see that he has a bucket here, and you want to know the number of fish in that bucket. How would you ask him? Hopefully, one of your questions looked like this to begin. How many fish have you? And now you've got a choice. You can choose either present perfect or present perfect progressive. What would you say? How many fish have you? The correct question would be, how many fish have you caught? Now, if you said, how many fish have you been catching, that would not work. We're talking about a fixed number. And when you have fixed numbers, these fixed numbers with the present perfect, well, fixed numbers in general, would mean that you're going to use present perfect and not present perfect progressive. How many times have you been to New York? If you said, how many movies have you seen this month? Overall, when you have these fixed numbers, that will mean that you're using the present perfect and not the present perfect progressive. So therefore, how many fish have you been catching does not work. Oh, and by the way, hopefully you said caught, and you didn't write something like catched, because we're talking about an irregular verb here, right? So I know everybody here said caught, and they did not say catched. So you ask the man, how many fish have you caught? And he says, oh, I've caught a lot. And why does he say, I've caught a lot, and not, I caught a lot? Yeah, because he's still fishing. He's hoping to catch more fish. He's already caught some, and he's hoping to catch more, but he's not finished fishing. An action started in the past, continued, and it's not completed. In short, the present perfect progressive and the present perfect can both be used to talk about actions that began in the past and are still in progress. However, the present perfect progressive is used to emphasize something happening in the progress. The present perfect is also different from the present perfect progressive in that you can talk about the number of times something has been done, whereas you could not do that with the present perfect progressive.